explaining earlier, I was talking about, I think I shared it on my post, that for you to actually create a particular skill in your lesson, you have to see how that lesson relates to real workplace skill. Yes, you have to see how it relates to real workplace skill. You don't create a lesson and force skills inside. It doesn't work that way. You check before you or during your creation of the lesson, you actually trace that particular lesson or that during your lesson planning. You trace that particular step to workplace. What skills that you are trying to, that happens in workplace, that you can bring down to your children and teach it as a core skill, as a 21st century skill. So we know the 21st century skills. I'll share them later on. We know the 21st century skills. So these are actually broad categories, but you can actually find all those skills in normal workplaces. And that's how most businesses are run. That's how most businesses are managed. That's how most businesses are made to progress. So how do you bring those skills to your classroom? That's been a very, very, how will I put it, that's been a very, very difficult for most teachers, difficult route for most teachers. We go to seminars, we hear it, 21st century skills, 21st century skills, but it's quite not practicable the way you teach it or the way it's being presented in the seminar, because you don't know what to do next. You don't know what to do next. I found myself in that situation actually, till I went and really think hard. I can't just attend seminars and workshops and I'm not practicing this. How do I implement skills in my lesson? How do lessons become parts and parcel of my content? How does skills become parts and parcel of my content? How do I share skills that these children will take home, my learners will take home and become useful? Basically, I'll tell you a short story about myself and about how it could be of impact teaching skills to these children. Then it was maybe years back when I just not graduated actually, when I was leaving. Okay, I was just getting into secondary school, maybe JSS or SS1 thereabouts. So we had a creative writing session, and it was not even a normal class. It was maybe like my lesson that I do attend after school. So it was a different teacher, but an English language session. So the lady, our teacher, just came up and said, write anything about anything, just write. Creative, write about anything. No structure, no write a formal letter or informal letter. Just write what you are inspired to write. And that just excited me. And it just removes this scare of you getting WIAC in creative writing at times, when they give you a kind of structured way of writing that you cannot even creatively expand yourself to accomplish that task. So basically, she said, write anything. And it really helped in me just brainstorming, and I wrote something that excited me. I said, what actually even made it interesting, because I've been looking for ways for my teachers to just make this personalized comment on my English language write-up, because I wasn't sure if I was doing it right or wrong. I just see good, seeing, those old ways of teaching. So I was just eager, how do I get, because I wanted to build my literary skills, maybe poetry, writing and all that. So I wanted to build that up. And it's actually, this was an opportunity, not normal school lesson, for a teacher to tell you, I'll make personalized comments on your write-up. So it excited me, and in 30 minutes or thereabouts, we are done. So we submitted write-ups, and she actually made comments on everything we've been talking about. She made comments on everything we've been talking about on that on our lesson. So practically, she just, on my own script, she said, you have the power of expression. And that revolutionized my thoughts on my literature, what I write. It still sticks to me till this day. Imagine. When I write and I try to express, I just remember her telling me, seeing that notebook where I scribbled my creative idea, and she commented that you have the power of expression, and till this day, it actually helps me, because when I'm writing, I really think of it deeply, and it helps me see, oh wow, these are better ways of expressing myself. So that's a skill, actually, though it wasn't well developed at then, but now I see it's very useful. So imagine the skills you could teach your children, or you could teach your learners at this point in time. Imagine where they will go to. Imagine where it will take them to. It might just be a seed you have sown, and in the near or not too distant future, it will crop up in their lives, and they will start using it. And you have saved that particular child from whatever negative that would have come their way if without that skills. So teaching skills in school is very important. It's very important. So basically, I will share my screen and take. Okay, I'll share my screen and show you the slide. I'll show you the slide on my PowerPoint. So this, okay. Okay. So this is a slide. We're looking at facilitating 21st century skill set in classroom. Facilitating 21st century skill set in classroom. Nancy Mba, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. I hope we get to discuss further on this session, because it's going to be very helpful for teachers who are looking for ways to adapt core skills in their lesson. Okay. So basically, facilitating 21st century skill set in classrooms. So we'll be introducing introduction to global dimension in your lesson. So let's look at ways you could introduce global dimension, because now, even if you are teaching, your teaching is remote or in a local environment, you could make it more global for the student to experience how it is in other aspects or parts of the world. And skills are the best way to implement that. So if you are going to bring a global dimension to your teaching, skills are the best way, because the way most skills are done in every part of the world, they are similar. Most skills. For example, bankers in Nigeria are the same with bankers in America, any other part of lawyers in Nigeria are the same. They might have different practices, but the principles are the same. So these principles are what you're teaching your children. These principles are what you're bringing to the classroom. So we're looking at facilitating 21st century skill set in the classroom. Now let's look at these 21st century skills. We'll look at the different columns: 21st century skills, specific employability skills, and classroom lesson scenarios. So we'll look at it from this perspective. So the broad category of 21st century skills, we have critical thinking for problem solving. Why do you think critical? Is because probably you are trying to solve a problem. Then you have the citizenship, you have the collaboration. Why should we collaborate on a project? Why should a student understand collaboration? Then you have communication, you have digital literacy. You have digital literacy doesn't necessarily mean teaching about technology. You are actually, as a teacher, teaching with technology, not teaching about technology. Teaching about technology is left for maybe the ICT teacher and all that. But teaching with technology is for every teacher to know how to use. So it's digital literacy. It's not necessarily teaching about technology. It's actually teaching with technology. So we have creativity and imagination. Creativity via imagination. Most times creativity, why are you being creative? For your creativity to explode or to become very useful, you have to have an imaginative mind. You have to be very, very imaginative. So that's why I call it creativity via imagination. Then student leadership via personal development. For students to be leaders, they must know how to develop themselves. That you can take it. For you to even be a leader, you have to know how to develop yourself. You must have worked on your personal development. So you cannot rule that out. So I call it student leadership via personal development. Now, we look at specific employability skills. These skills on this column actually are what makes you employable in the 21st century. So look at the ability to manage diverse work environment. That's your social skills. How do you relate with people from different cultures, different religions, different tribes, because we have people that have problem with that. So teaching those skills now helps our students to adapt to any environment they find themselves and mix up with people without necessarily being critical about them for no good reason. So if somebody have not really done anything wrong, just because of their religion or their culture or their tribe or their race, you just have a goosebump because of them. It means you are not, you cannot manage yourself in a diverse workplace environment. So look at knowledge of other cultures. You need knowledge of other cultures to be able to work with them, to be able to help them, to be able to also be of value and importance to them. So we have to teach these skills. Those are employability skills. Then we look at global mindset. What are you talking about? Global mindset. We are teaching children locally. They can definitely be global minded in terms of their approach to things, in terms of how they relate with things from a global perspective. So they don't become self-centered, just thinking about your locality and your environment. You don't have empathy for other people outside your environment. So we can teach those skills. Effective conflict resolution. How can children learn the skills of conflict resolution and all that? Resolving conflict, dialogue, and more. A willingness to learn. How can you teach a child to be willing to learn, even without assistance, even without much pushing? How do you teach them to learn? So those are employability skills. If you are employed and you are not willing to learn, you will be kicked out of the service. So the ability to successfully outsource. So we are not all good in everything. We are good in most things. We still have our weaknesses. So how do you outsource those things you cannot do? So we can teach that kind of skills to our children. And those are employability skills in 2017. Then we look at strong communication skills. How can you communicate your ideas? How can you communicate your passion? How can you communicate whatever that you think will be of benefits to humanity or to other people? So you need that skills to be employable too. That's where marketing comes into play. Then we have the understanding analytics. How does your child, can you make your learners be analytical? Can they think for themselves? Can they look at certain things and reason things out and ask questions and find solutions? Can you do that in your lesson? Those are employability skills too. So we look at classroom scenarios. Then you can set up a classroom for a class for data analysis. When I say data analysis, I'm not talking about big data and all that. You might just bring out a simple data of weather data, and you discuss with your students why rain falls at certain a period of the year and why it doesn't fall at other periods of the year. And you analyze the current weather situation. They are thinking and they are talking, they are bringing out ideas and making suggestions. Some of them might be not too smart to you, but actually they are thinking, because thinking actually helps you refine your thoughts. So if you have not thought for a really, you have not thought about a matter for a very good number of time, you might not be able to get a refined version of that thought. So in your children talking and brainstorming with you on weather conditions on a data table, as simple as that, automatically they get to refine their ideas on that matter. I bet you they might not even want to ask you. They will not ask you that question again because they have passed that stage. So you can also talk about a product, evaluate a product. Give them a bottle of Coke and tell them, or bring 3 bottles, Coke, Fanta, Sprite, or whatever, and tell them which one they like best. And ask them why they like that product. You are evaluating that product. They are assessing, they are not being critical about that product, but they are telling you why that product is best suited for them, or why people will buy this product more than this product. And it's actually a marketing analytics skills, which is in real life. So you can imagine what such child would become as a product evaluator in future. So they might not go to that route, but it will help them in their other aspect of thinking. Okay. Olushola Lokoye, thank you. Welcome to the scene. I will look at sales pitch and presentation, advertising their favorite product. So a classroom scenario skill you might teach. Tell them to come and sell a product to you. Tell your students to. I'll give you an example anyway. Recently, I talked about I created a PowerPoint presentation, or my children or my students created a PowerPoint presentation. I asked them to embed a car as an image there. I wasn't comfortable just teaching them how to use PowerPoint. So I wanted them to see the value of PowerPoint as a skill, in particular in presenting. So I asked them to put a car there, a picture of a car, and sell that car to anybody. And you can imagine what came up. So I was able to help them think of ways of about a product and sell it. So that's a sales pitch skill or a marketing skill. So also, I can also ask them to advertise a product. You can give them something, advertise it. Let the entire class come out one after the other and talk about their best product. Don't even give them a specific product. Tell them any products they like. So automatically they get to talk about that product, and the response from the class will be, will you buy this product if it was you? Yes or no? And they get to give their view. Okay, I'll buy this product. I might not buy this product because of it. So the speaker at that point, the presenter, goes back and work on his or her presentation or her pitch sale. So that's a skill. Learning that skill is very, very paramount, because marketers these days are making the big bucks. So if you can market a product, imagine how big you are, because you become millionaire and all that. So we look at the next one, digital maps for locating places. You can teach map reading. In our time, quite was difficult, or not. I liked map reading anyway, but somehow it wasn't too graphical. It wasn't too real to me. It was too obscure. But now I see digital maps, Google Maps, wow, now maps and all that. It becomes very, very glaring that, wow, map reading is actually interesting. So you could locate places on Google Maps for your children, tell them to locate places, talk about places, and tell stories about places, describe a place they found in a map, and they're actually building their creativity, are building a communication skill. So we look at creating information for various purposes. So you could tell them to research and create an information to produce an idea or a particular item. So those are diverse ways, and you see them in workplaces. You see them, those are employability skills too you are teaching. So literary and filmmaking, collaboration. Actually, making a film is a collaboration. You don't do a film alone, except you are in a very, very tight budget. Even if you are in a very tight budget, you don't do a film alone. Whether be it documentary, be it a movie, be it a short, you don't do it alone. There must be the cameraman, there must be the producer, the director, and all that. So these are specialized areas. You could learn everything, but you don't actually do it alone. So that is a good way to help students collaborate in a particular project. They could also do a literary project where they all contribute to make a story or write a poem. So that's a good way of collaborating to create a project. So they see the need that everybody has an idea and everybody can make a team better. So we look at questioning methods for solution. So you teach them how to questioning method in order to get solutions to problems, because there are some, if you ask the wrong questions, you might not get the right answers and you might not get the solution to a particular problem. So teaching children how to ask the right questions, teaching them how questioning works and how they can actually ask the right questions to solve a particular problem they find themselves or they want to help others. It makes all the difference. Then dialogue and nonviolent persuasion methods. So most times you see children throw a fit or become very, very, very aggressive. So you could actually teach them or teach a student how to be persuasive, how to request and be persuasive without being violent. It makes all the difference because they grow up to be children who do not start being violent or being aggressive to make a point. So that is also a skill that could be learned. Then negotiation. So you teach them how to negotiate price. You find it, you go to the market, you have to be a good negotiator. So you teach them how negotiation works. That's a math class, English class, depending. And the good thing about it is all skills can be taught in all subjects. There's no exclusion. There's no subject that is difficult to teach your core skills. Core skills can be taught in all subjects, be it math, English, art, social stuff, any subject, even in ICT. So any subject that you think that is in the curriculum, they can be a core skill activity or skill sets that can be taught in that lesson or in that subject. So it depends on the creativity and intuition of the teacher. So for you to teach core skills, you just better be very creative. You better be a researcher as a teacher. So it makes your work easier and it makes your job exciting. So we look at the last one there, creating learning content. Actually, you could make your student create a learning content based on what they have researched or they have taught. So it's like a project book for them. And it makes it more real to them because they have been able to harness information. Now, basically, the other things I would like to share, which includes students should be allowed to write stories that inspires them. Like, yes, it's very important. And maybe once in a while they go through the structured format of writing a specific story. But try it as a teacher, as an English language teacher or a language teacher. Tell them to write any story that inspires them, whether it's about their life or about anybody else, but just tell them to write any story that inspires, and you'll be surprised to see the feedback. You see that these children that you feel they can't write your normal story, which are structured, maybe a story about your school or story about your holiday and all that, you'll find that they do better when they write something that inspires them. And that's how creative writing works. And that's how storytelling is generated or built in your children. You don't tell them to write a story which does not inspire them. Actually, academically, it's possible, but in the real world, authors write stories that inspire them. So why can't your children not do that? Authors will always write stories that inspire them. No author will write a story that is so structured that has to be marked, that has to go through the rigorous process of teaching teachers. Authors will always write stories that inspire them. So leave our children to write stories that inspire them. It's going to make your work easier. It's going to bring out the best in them. We are breeding children. We are training children for the 21st century, and it's all about creativity and imagination. You don't expect them to regurgitate whatever you have been teaching them all this while. So let our children explore. Let them write stories that inspire them. That's creative writing. That's how I see creative writing. Let students, let learners write stories that inspire them. You don't have to structure them to the wall so that, I don't know. So we just have to change some things in our teaching way practices. So we could promote, like I told you, promoting creative writing, storytelling must be there. So you could tell story of in many places. Take this scenario, for example, you tell a child, write a story of why people should trust you. And they ask you, what do you mean by trust? They start inquiring what is trust, and probably they even know what is trust. They don't know the details of trust. So you tell the children, the students, write the story of why people should trust you. Why should we trust you? And tell them to give instances where they have been able to talk about the truth. They have spoken the truth, or they have been commended for speaking the truth, or exposing a lie. And you can imagine what our children will do with that. You can imagine what our children will do with that. So for every activity in creative writing, there should be a story behind it. Creative writing does not fly on its own. It must be backed with a story, with storytelling. And storytelling is a very, very critical way of solving a problem, critical way of thinking of things, critical way of expressing themselves as children. So we'll go to also look at other instances. If you want a child or your students to research something, you might just bring out an informal question. Okay, for example, you want them to look at the nutritional value of something, maybe nutritional value of chocolate. You simply tell them, why will mommy buy you a chocolate? Or why should mommy buy you chocolate? And tell them to go and look for the benefits of chocolate and present it to their mom. So their mommy will buy them chocolate. So that gives the children the power to research the benefits of chocolate. They're actually building themselves, because the next time they were going to ask chocolate from their mom, those will be strong points they are presenting. And you have taught them to look at things deeper than the way they are. Not just ask for chocolate because it's a sweet or because you feel like eating chocolate. Look at the nutritional value. Look at the importance of it to you or your health. And you'll be building children who would want to know something before they even ask for it. So those are skills we can teach, and those are skills that can be embedded in any lesson, any subject, and any curriculum. So we'll go to the next slide there. Yeah, why teach 21st century skill sets? Makes teachers look for ways to spark learnable conversation. So there are conversations that are learnable. So 21st century skill sets or teaching skills in your lesson, it makes teachers look for ways to spark learnable conversation amongst their learners. So that's one advantage. It enriches lesson content by providing innovative dimensions. So you cannot just teach a lesson the way it has been taught you or the way it has been taught for years. So you will always see an innovative dimension. Because if you, for example, you want to teach now, you teach now with communication skill set. Another time you are teaching nouns, you teach it with critical thinking skill set. Another time you are teaching nouns, you teach it with leadership skill set. Another time you're teaching now, you teach it with problem solving. You just have diverse way of teaching just one subject, one topic, or one subject, one idea. So it also brings an excitement in learning among students during classroom activities. So teaching skills will actually bring excitement because they want to come to your class to learn something new. Children know when your lesson is boring. They might not say it, and the bold one will just tell you, I'm tired, this lesson is boring. But generally, they might not want to say it. But you see the excitement. You feel the excitement as a teacher if there's a skill activity in your lesson. You see the excitement in the children. They want to come to your class. They want to learn something. It's not just because how you talk, because they know there's something new, there's something fresh in the way you are, what you are giving them. So it also provides an avenue for talent discovery during classroom exercise. You don't know the talents that might be in your class, in your learners, or in your students that will just be dormant till you teach that skill in that lesson, and they are gone, and they are up, and they are awaking because of the skill you just taught them. And you see, all those things we teach, these skills, they might not necessarily use all of them, but you are just sowing a seed, entrepreneurial seed. You are sowing a seed of greatness in each of those children, because they get to, one way or the other, is going to grow up. One way or the other, is going to spark an interest. And one way or the other, they are going to become somebody better by just those skills you teach. Might have taught 100 skills, but they will perhaps one will become more prominent with them, and the rest will just be a support for them. So you can discover talent in your classroom exercise, during your classroom exercises in your learners. It also helps the teacher think deep about his lesson. You can't be teaching skills and you'll be doing things the same way. You just have to think very deep. You just have to be a deep thinker. You can't teach skills and you just, even copy and paste will not work for you, because you have to research some of the ideas and you have to bring it down to the level of your students. So you just have to think deep about your lesson before you can teach it. It helps you think deep. So that's one good thing. And most teachers that have adopted that method, ask them when they teach skills or when they embed the skills into their lessons, you see they are thinking very deep. They think very deep about their lesson. And it also fosters deep learning. Aside teaching, making you as a teacher think deep, it also fosters deep learning amongst the students. So you are no longer focused on surface learning. You're actually focused on deep learning, more in-depth information, in-depth things about a particular concept or a topic. It also provides an easy access for teachers to differentiate their instruction. When you are teaching skills, it's easier for you to differentiate your instructions. Children with different learning abilities, you will just see it come out. Those that you feel might not be good academically, but you see other skills, soft skills that are very prominent. You compute on that and assess them on that and evaluate them on that. And it will also help them be better people, because they are beginning to find better ways of expressing themselves. So before we go ahead, Mrs. Didiolu, thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching us, and thank you for the comments. So we'll look at the next slide there, which is the global goals. Now, if you are a teacher and you don't know how to teach skills, the basic way to even start teaching skills in your lesson is just go online and check for the Sustainable Development Goals. These goals, they are 17, and it can be applied to any subject, any topic, anything as far as you teach. It's just applicable anywhere. So it's just less for you to start thinking deep about it. From no poverty to partnership for the goals or global goals. So you have no poverty there, no hunger. How do you teach no hunger in a creative writing class? How do you teach no poverty in a critical thinking class? How do you teach good health in a student leadership class? How do you teach quality education in a collaboration or communication class? How do you teach gender equality in, you have plethora of things. You have plethora of ideas. So if you don't know how to start teaching skills as a teacher, basically start with the global goals. It will help you. It will just streamline your whatever you want to teach into the global goals. And the global goals is supposed to be taught, but most times we don't see how it's applicable to our needs in school. It's actually applicable. And teaching these global goals prepares your children for handling future challenges, prepares your children or prepares your students for handling global challenges, because they might not be able to handle the big ones, the big problems which they might face in future. But starting with the global goals, they already know how things work, how matters are structured, how problems are solved, how to communicate. And man, there are several things you could do with these 17 global goals. It's just a matter of you as a teacher being creative, being innovative, being a researcher. I'll show you a template or a lesson plan so that you know how to start. Because basically, like I said, you cannot teach skills without planning it in your lesson template. Lesson plan template. You cannot teach skills. How do you want to teach it? It's not exclusive from it's actually included in the lesson. It's an inclusive process. So you look for a way of including it in your lesson plan. You can teach it. That's the truth. If you don't include it in your lesson plan, you will not be able to teach it. And basically, if you are using the old lesson plan template, I present to you a new one anyway, or a more revamped one, which will actually help you teach skills or plan skills along your lesson notes or your lesson plan. So if you are using the old lesson plan, you might not be able to embed skills in it accurately because it's going to be very rough for you. It's going to be very rough for you as a teacher because you find it difficult to put certain elements in place. So the global goals are ways we can actually teach skills. So these skills are connected to real life problems. How do you solve the problems with your children? How do you help the children generate ideas to solve those problems? Take for example, no poverty. Come into the class and one morning and ask them, how do we solve the problem of poverty? And you see them generate different answers. Funny, interesting, but they are all correct in their own way. Then the ones that you feel might have strayed from the idea, you keep asking them this an open question by, okay, this is your answer. What about this? Oh, they will not tell you, oh, okay, I'm seeing from this dimension. Then they give you another answer, and you say, okay, what about this? And you see, they are refining their thought process, their thought patterns, and their thought enthusiasm, because they become knowledgeable and understand how things really work. Because we find more times people leaving school without knowing what is happening in the real world, and they become very, very surprised that it's just almost a waste of time that you spend 4 years in school and you cannot fit into the workplace. So what have you been learning in school? So teaching skills will actually bridge that gap. Teaching skills will actually bridge that gap between the academic world and the workplace environment, so that we have graduates that are leaving school and automatically blending into workplace, becoming more innovative, bringing innovative approaches to workplace, and we will not have problem of graduates passing out of school and not finding jobs and not getting opportunities that are supposed to be for them. So we'll go on with the next slide. Now, this is a revamped lesson plan template I created. So it's simplified one and actually direct to the point. So it's still the same lesson plan template which we are used to. We have the idea of a lesson, the teacher, the subject, the topic. the class, the dates, the week, the duration. That's the normal thing you find in the lesson plan. Then the learning, stating the key learning objective, which is also on the lesson plan. Now, I've embedded core skill session into the lesson plan. So you have core skill embedded into lesson. So you have to state in this session of the core skill embedded in lesson, you have to state what core skill or skills you intend to teach during your lesson plan, or when creating your lesson plan, or when delivering your lesson. So you have to put the kind of skills you intend to teach there. Then you go to if you are teaching collaboration, then you explain what kind of collaboration is involved. If you are teaching critical thinking, just a short note on the kind of skills you are trying to teach. Then we go on to the title of instructional material. So we'll go on to that point. So what kind of instructional materials you are trying to bring? Is it a video? Is it a podcast? Is it hands-on materials? Is it pictures? Whatever, you just state it there. So you put your instruction, which we are used to anyway. Then the next row there, where we have the core skill activities. We have activity 1, activity 2, 3, and 4. We have 4 places. So it depends on you, on the kind of activity that you want to embed or create with your core skills. So we have your core skill embedded in your lesson there. So if you are teaching collaboration, you must have a collaboration activity. If you are teaching communication strategies or problem solving, there must be a skill, activity skill attached to it. So you have 4 there. So at least you should have not more than 2, 3 core skills in your lesson. Then you have 2, 3 activities. So it doesn't have to be a very big activity. It could just be, I'll give you an example of a lesson plan template I've actually created, a lesson plan for that. So we have questions related to your skills. So you should be asking open-ended questions. So what kind of questions will spark interest, will spark ideas when teaching that skill? There's nothing as glorious and as beautiful as teaching a particular skill, and you get children wanting to participate. Everybody has an idea. Everybody is thinking critically about that particular. It gives you as a teacher joy. It gives you this satisfaction that you are engaging your learners. So that's the essence. If you can't engage your learners, definitely, you failed in that, preparing that lesson. But if you can engage your learners, and the only best way to engage your learners is through embedding core skills in your lesson. You can't engage them without core skills. You can't engage them without implementing skills in your lesson. So it's not the issue of engagement or having your students disengaged from your lessons. Not going to be there because you have been able to embed skills into your lesson. So we have the normal one that will be there, new words and vocabulary. Then we have the assessment for learning. How do you want to assess what the skills you are teaching them, or the skills your learners are taking in? How do you assess it? So you put it up there. Then you have the learning outcome there. Then you have the previous knowledge. So it's still the same kind of lesson plan templates that we are used to, the Nigerian lesson plan template, but I've been able to include a global dimension into it by embedding core skills. So we can run with it and becomes a part of our national lesson plan template. So we have the lesson note content. So you have the content down. If you are using PowerPoint, it's going to be easier for you to organize because you could put video as lesson material, you could put audio, whatever you can on your PowerPoint template, and it's editable anyway. So that's the great thing about using a lesson plan template. So it makes it easier. This lesson plan template makes it easier for you to teach core skills. It makes it easier for you to embed core skills into your lesson content. because without that, it actually starts from the curriculum. Our curriculum in Nigeria actually, if as you know, they are not skill based. They are not skill based. They are just more theoretical. I've checked the British curriculum on tests, and I found that they have a way of including skills. Actually, the British curriculum segments aspects of each of the curriculum by skills. So you have skill set for each aspect of the curriculum. Is it collaboration? These are the topics they are teaching on collaboration. Is it critical thinking? These are the topics. So that's a curriculum that's been embedded with core skills. But we might not be able to revamp our curriculum so we can go to the next stage, creating a lesson plan template that actually embeds core skills. So while we are working on that, we can go back and work on the curriculum and embed skills. But prior to that, it might take a longer time to actually create a curriculum that embeds skills. So having a lesson plan template that embeds skills is the way to go. So I hope you get to see it and see how it's useful to you. So like I told you, it's still the same lesson plan template, but I've been able to apply skill sets to it, and using it will enable every teacher to apply skill sets into their lesson content. So the next slide is actually a lesson idea. So this is actually digital literacy, which is my area. Like I told you, skill sets can be taught in any subject. But let me just use this as an example for teaching a particular skill. Now I'm teaching them about PowerPoint. I'm teaching my students about PowerPoint. And what best way can I teach them PowerPoint than ask them to generate a presentation? That is the best way. Actually, they are not just learning how to use PowerPoint. They are not learning how to insert images, insert text, insert slides and all that. They're actually knowing how PowerPoint can help them be better at presenting a particular idea. So this lesson plan is for my children. The idea summary there is, I want them to be able to create a PowerPoint presentation to insert text, images, and insert a design templates. That's the PowerPoint design templates that you have. So it's you can use it for a class not less than grade 4 to 6 secondary school and all that. You use it for them. So the learning objective here is for students to demonstrate basic level of understanding on PowerPoint features for inserting text, images, new slides, and design selection. That's the first objective. Then the second objective is for students to express ideas on how to pitch sale of a car presentation. So they are not just making a presentation. I'm now directing their ability to make a presentation to a particular skill, sales skill, how to sell something, how to market a product, how to get clients to buy your goods. So I'm looking at a process where they will make a presentation. I just ask them to insert a picture of a car on their presentation. Just one, maybe 2 slide presentation. Insert the introductory presentation and the sales presentation. So insert an image of a car there and write about the car. Not just write about it. Try to sell that car to somebody. I'll show you an example of what came out of the class. Okay, tell me how you can sell this car to somebody. And you can imagine the ideas that are being generated. Everybody the entire class were expressing themselves, trying to bring out keywords that will help them market their car or market the car. And actually they are learning sales skill, and actually learning how to communicate the ideas. Actually, it has just become a creative writing class in a sort that become a creative writing class. because they are writing something that excites them, something that they are not restricted. They just bring out these ideas from within them. So that's for the learning objective. Then we have the core skill embedded. How do I embed the core skill into this particular lesson of PowerPoint presentation? Now, there's the creativity skill of using PowerPoint design. There's the communication skill on how to sell a product or item using in their PowerPoint presentation, because they're already writing creative ways in which they are seeing that particular car that they inserted into their PowerPoint presentation. The idea is write ways, talk about this car, try to sell this car in your presentation, and they were generating ideas. Now we have the critical thinking part of it, because you have to think of right words. You cannot use wrong words to sell the right product. You have to think of right words that will suit that kind of product. I'll get to show you two of the slides there. Then the instructional material is PowerPoint software and a video of a sales man convincing a customer. You could get that on YouTube. So that's the essence of YouTube. You as a teacher can actually create a negotiation scenario in terms of you're trying to buy something and somebody is actually the other end, the buyer and the seller scenario. So the children get to see how negotiation takes place. It's just a very short video you create. It could be acted. You could go to YouTube and download it if you are not too creative with that. So you could go to YouTube and download ways people negotiate about things, and within less than 5 minutes, the children, your students watch the video and they get to understand. It's a Kickstarter for such scenario. Oh, before I go on, I would like to say hi to Ndidi Olamide Adekunle. Thank you for coming on stage. Thank you for watching. And thank you for keeping on. Nancy and Mrs. Didiolua and Olushola, thank you for being with me. So if you are missing this episode, you could watch it anyway. And if you have questions, you could drop it and I'll get to answer it along the way. So these are core skills. This is a core skill lesson plan template. A core skill lesson plan template is still the original lesson plan template, but it has been garnished with skills, and that makes it easier for you as a teacher to teach, embed core skills into your lesson, 21st century skills into your lesson, because it is very necessary. Now we look at the core skill activity. Now for each core skill activity you embed in your lesson, for each core skill you embed in your lesson, there must be an activity. There must be an activity for it. So if you are teaching 3 core skills, there must be 3 activities. It could be more activities, but it should not be less activity, so that it helps you keep track of the core skill you are trying to teach. So you get to, for the first core skill, choosing a PowerPoint template that reflects their imaginative designs and love for colors. So I tell them, choose a design, PowerPoint design template there, and try to see how they want to present the most beautiful designs, and you help them see their color, the way they choose colors, the way colors become very an inspirational material to them. Then the second, that's for creativity. The first activity there is creativity. So the second one there is creative writing that involves expressing ability to pitch sale of a car. So I tell them, write about this car, try to sell this car to me. And the end result there is going to be very, very dramatic, because each student will come out and present their sale pitch to the class, and everybody will have to judge it and say, and be able to ask, I'll ask them, will you buy this car with this kind of presentation, with this kind of, and they will decide. So the children will decide, everybody's participating. So everybody's presenting, everybody's deciding, and everybody's knowing what makes a good sale pitch as a salesman or a marketer. So that's a skill in real life, marketing skills. And it's actually digital literacy I'm trying to teach. So you see, I'm not teaching, I'm using the method of teaching with technology. I'm not just teaching about technology. So it doesn't just end in them knowing how to put image and create beautiful PowerPoint presentation. It's actually bringing out the best in them in creative writing. So they could actually write a sales pitch and present it and try to convince people to buy a product. So that's a skill. That's a very powerful skill. Teaching, learning how to convincing people to buy a product. That's a very powerful skill. Then the third activity there is classroom presentation of their car sales pitch, like I told you, and everybody will decide if that sales presentation sells that car. The same car, different presentation on it, different ideas on selling that same car. So the best, everybody will decide, everybody will judge, everybody's participating. So no child is left behind. So it's a way of, the instruction have been differentiated to the extent that everybody has something to say. Everybody's presentation makes sense. The weak child in your class might be the best presenter, you don't know. So that's the way to find out talent using core skills. So we have I have questions there. I used open-ended questions. So the question is, list some catchy words you will use to sell a car. So they will look for catchy words to sell a car, interesting words that will sell the car. Then that's for the question part. Then the second question is, give reasons that will make you buy a specific kind of car instead of another. So there are reasons. That's a creative way of, that's a very powerful way of bringing out creative responses from your students. They will definitely think of why they like this car, why they don't like this car, and they are creatively writing it. They are writing it. That's how to generate creative writing skills in your children, because sometimes if you structure, even in adults, if you structure the items too much, it might just hamper creativity. Not everybody knows how to think around certain kind of topics or subject matters. So for children, they are in the exploration stage, so you leave them to explore. Let them write what inspires them. So you have different cars, they have seen cars, so they could be able to write why they prefer a certain car over to instead of another, and that will help them present a better sales pitch in their next presentation, in the next class, or in the next skill you are trying to teach. So they are better, they will fine-tune their sales pitch, and they are good to go. So that talent, that skills, and that particular talent becomes a part of them. So when they want to sell a particular product, they know what to say, they know what to do, they know how to express themselves, and they know the kind of presentation to deliver. Now we have new words there. We have the slide, we have the insert, and the presentation. These are new words to them. Then we have the assessment for learning. We have plethora of them, but you just streamline it to the way and manner you want to assess what they have learned. So we have the student sales presentation. That's an assessment. You could have a picture of a video, or you have a video of them making their presentation. So that's a good way of assessing that particular learning. You can go over it, you could compile it for them, and it becomes an archive work for your lesson plan. So we also have students work on PowerPoint. So they have been able to express themselves with their presentation, that they also have been able to create a PowerPoint presentation, understand how PowerPoint works, understand how presentation software works. So that's the twofold beginning. So we have, okay, we move to the next one, the learning outcome. The learning outcomes should tally with your objective, like you know. So the outcomes are there. From the objective, the outcome should be the children's ability to create a PowerPoint slide, insert text images into PowerPoint, design a PowerPoint template, and also make a presentation using PowerPoint. An example of it is the presentation using the car, selling the car sales pitch. So they have pitched a sale for their car and they are trying to make other buy it. So when that is achieved, you know that your lesson has been skill-based. You can see the visual aspect of the skills. You can feel and taste and touch the skills that have been learned instead of just the note copying and maybe one or two presentation that doesn't have to do with real life skills. So that's it. Then you have the previous knowledge, which involves their use of Paint, Microsoft Paint, because the PowerPoint interface is still similar to that. So most children that are able to use PowerPoint would have been using Microsoft Paint. So it's the same interface or similar interface. Then their ability to understand how negotiation, I'm talking about previous knowledge, negotiation skills. They have seen people negotiate and they understand how negotiation works. So that's their previous knowledge. Then the idea to convince parents. They have been in a situation where they have been pestering their parents to buy cars, buy a toy car, buy chocolate, buy this. So these are what they do normally, but they don't see it as, it's not useful to them till it becomes a lesson with a skill. So it becomes embedded in the lesson and it becomes a skill they could develop. So it's not just pestering your parents to buy this, buy that. You could actually ask them to go and research what they want to buy and know more about it. And they get to know if it's useful for them, to them or not. Okay. Indeed, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I respect you all for joining me and I thank you all for being a part of this webinar. I'll soon be ending. So this is an example of a lesson plan template. This is an example of a lesson plan template. So with core skills, like I told you, you cannot teach core skills if it's not embedded in your lesson plan. So I've been able to create a lesson plan that embeds those skills. So this is an example, okay, of a project from the PowerPoint presentation, the sales pitch. So it's the same car. The child created the car and wrote something about selling the car. Like, okay, let me just read it to you. Funny enough, this car is faster than a cheetah. Imagine you're trying to buy a car and they want to express the speed of that car and they tell you it's faster than a cheetah. So it's clean. It's never, that it can never be dirty. Okay, that's a way of convincing you that your car does not attract dust like other cars. It is beautiful based on design. You should buy it because it's of good quality. Yes, who does not want quality material? You don't just want to buy a thing because it's cheap or because it's beautiful. You want to buy it because it's of good quality. Now I can spark a conversation from this part kind of presentation. What makes a quality car? And the child start brainstorming, start critically thinking about what makes a quality car. It can become a research, and that is called deep learning. If I would say, that is called deep learning. So the child brings out an idea and start digging deep with that on that idea, and you find out what that skill you are teaching your child becomes a part of them, becomes very, very critical to their success in life. They might not use it in the next 2-3 years, but they have actually sown a seed of inquiry and ability to research matters. We have